It's crazy to think now, but it's almost been a year since the Generation 9 metagame was released, and one constant discussion that has always been brought up is our favorite Steel-type boy in Gholdengo. Generation 9 as a whole community has an off and on relationship and discussion pertaining to as centralizing, if at all, this Steel junk has been. Gholdengo is one of the most unique Pokemon to be ever released in the game's history. It's got an excellent typing in Ghost and Steel, combined with relatively bulky stats. But where this Pokemon really shines is its absurd ability of Good as Gold. This ability just doesn't block status. It blocks status moves. Why has this ability been so significant for such a long time, and probably showcasing the peak of those powers as of this moment? Is Gholdengo, or more specifically Good as Gold, centralized in the metagame? Before we analyze and dissect our favorite string cheese man, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more competitive Pokemon content just like this. And once again, thank you guys for 10k subs once more. Status moves include moves like Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Wave, etc., with the most eye-catching one being Defog. Defog is a powerful status type move that helps get rid of hazards on both sides of the field. With its ghost typing as well, it's not only able to block Rapid Spin because it's a normal type move, but Defog as well. This by far is Gholdengo's greatest strength in what it is called in controlling the hazard metagame. Having hazards like Stealth Rock Spikes and Toxic Spikes have now a greater chance to linger around. Two of them will deal constant damage on switches, and Toxic Spikes will poison targets, with poison probably one of the strongest statuses a Pokemon can be inflicted with. Now, since its release, we have had three main phases of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in the singles metagame. The first was the original release, the set of original mons we were slated to toy with from November all the way till the end of May. The second phase was the most recent post-home metagame, where hazard gameplay really picked up in usage because of the Hamrod and its move of Ceaseless Edge. I made a video back then pertaining to hazards and how much of a trouble it was back then, but it seems as if those were baby steps to what's happening in phase 3 of the metagame, the Teal Mask DLC. There are two Pokemon who have taken hazard play to a whole new level, in Gliscor, and actually something I've not seen talked about as much in fault for this in Ribombee. I don't need an introduction on Gliscor. In short, it got a huge new buff in Toxic Spike. If you want to know more about this Pokemon, just check out the video I made a while ago. It really goes in depth of what I've meant about Gliscor. Gliscor in Anywho has taken over the metagame so fast, and even though it lost a powerful move in Roost, that's not stopping this ground and flying creature. With its new addition of Toxic Spikes, it becomes even more deadly as a utility monster. This is for two simple reasons. Not only is it hard for poison types to switch in, but now this is another strain and addition to the hazard-filled metagame. If you don't have a poison type, then Air Balloon Gholdengo from the opposing side can always stall you out and make it hell for you to get rid of hazards. And even if you want to get rid of Toxic Spikes with the Gliscor and switching into Pokemon like Great Tusk for example, you're still gonna take damage or like have Gliscor set up with Sword Stance. Those are both two options that are something that you probably do not want to happen. The same principle rule can be applied to our friendly fairy bug over here, Ribombee. Ribombee has never been as relevant in OU as it is right now in the tier, and it's for one simple move, and I swear to God, it's Sticky Web. And I didn't mention this earlier because prior to the Teal Mask, we had no really good users of Sticky Web in the OU tier, but now we finally got a very fast, reliable user in Ribombee. And reliable is a very funny word to use, all because of Gholdengo's ability to neutralize hazard removal. Sticky Web pairs really well with Pokemon that can set up and sweep like an Ogerpon, which in all honesty was a catalyst in helping ban Ogerpon Hearthflame. The same principle can be even applied to like the number 7 most used Pokemon in Iron Moth, who's been really good at abusing Sticky Webs. Like, just think about it, this Pokemon is literally relevant because the advent of Gholdengo and its ability, and that's how centralizing Good as Gold has really become. As you can see, we now have two more forms of reliable hazards being set up in the metagame. In the first phase, it was just Stealth Rocks and occasional Spikes, which was somewhat bearable because Great Tusk was a really good counter, and it was just Gholdengo, and getting rid of Spikes and all that stuff, it wasn't really that hard with Court Change and all that kind of stuff. Post-home was now the addition of Spikes being like vaulted up in a higher tier of echelon of viability because of Ceaseless Edge Hamrod, and Stealth Rocks obviously was Stealth Rocks, and now in the Teal Mask DLC, all four hazards have become a key-centric piece in team building. Being able to stack webs, then rocks, spikes, maybe if you want Toxic Spikes, that in itself is a lot to handle just on entry alone. And this is where Gholdengo's role has been risen to prominence more and more. As hazard stacking grows and it hasn't been as much easier as it is now, and there aren't many counters, Good as Gold has over time become more and more prominent and much more greater in its effect. Defog is literally non-existent because 1, it doesn't do anything with Gholdengo around, and 2, Corviknight gets walled by Gholdengo super hardly all around, so anyways carrying it on teams in hopes to get rid of hazards is like a lottery chance odds. And that just leaves us with with one reliable great counter in Great Tusk, because not only does it have the move Ice Spinner for Gliscor, but it also has Rapid Spin to get rid of hazards, and it's one of the few good knockoff users in the tier. Only one good hazard removal in the metagame does not cut it, especially in a metagame where hazards are at its peak of its powers. These days as well, it's becoming a bit easier to get at Tusk as it takes toxic damage from toxic spikes, Ogerpon becoming incredibly powerful on both offensive and defensive with its Wellspring capability, and other meta threats that slowly chip away at Tusk's health. Tusk cannot survive the entire game as it used to be. It cannot hang on and just rapid spin when the time is right, because as that time comes, it will be a little too late. As the late game comes, there's more and more faster, more hard hitter Pokemon. And on the flip side, if it does it too early, it's not that hard to plan around and hazard stack later, knowing that your opponent only has Tusk to stop you. Let me lay out a simple example. You send out Ribombee and your opponent sends out Rillaboom. Everyone and their mother knows what you and your Ribombee is about to do, and thus they switch out into Great Tusk to counter Sticky Webs. While it might seem they have the upper edge, Tusk is now in the dilemma. Does it go for Rapid Spin and get rid of hazards, or does it go for a knockoff and get rid of Gholdengo if it switches in? But what if something like Ogerpon Wellspring also switches in, while Great Tusk goes for a knockoff, or Booster Energy Iron Moth in fact also comes in while it goes for a knockoff? At this point, it's almost like a guessing game, and more than ever in the Teal Mask DLC, Tusk doesn't have the margin of error as it once did because of the sheer offensive firepower that lies in the abundance of the tier. But anyways, back to our scenario. Let's say the best scenario happened and Tusk goes for Rapid Spin and you switch into Wellspring Ogerpon. Well, hazards are gone, sure, but now Ogerpon has the clear type advantage, threatens out Tusk very easily. So now Tusk is definitely going to switch out, giving you the opportunity to set up with Source Hands. And now you still have the potential opportunity to have Sticky Webs back up for you to set up again, and while Tusk is still in its own little dilemma of can it survive another hit or can it come in during an opportune time to get rid of them once more. Tusk is great because it can solve many issues in the metagame and it's just like a glue piece, but it's not like it can keep up doing what it has done forever since the release of Pokemon Scarlet Violet as it did prior to the DLC or even to Pokemon Home. Being the only reliable hazard removal has definitely caught up to it, and it can be seen in its plummet in usage at only now around 30%. Now there is Core Change Cinderace, but that also brings a myriad of problems as Core Change is a move that switches the playing field of hazards with each other. But if you're trying to gain the edge with hazards as well, it can in most cases not help a lot, unless you're of course going to get rid of Sticky Webs, in which case I think it's most useful then. Again, it's reliable and can bypass good as gold, but when compared to Rapid Spin, it isn't all that. Even if Cinderace was reliable, like for instance compared more so than Great Tusk for example, it's still frail and will rely on heavy duty boots to be effective, which means faster Pokemon, booster energy Pokemon, priority attacks, or heavy hitters can make it have a hard time switching in or out or slash taking hits. It's just not as bulky as Great Tusk, and teams have found a way to just kill off Cinderace before they start hazard stacking late game, which also brings up to my other point of heavy duty boots being probably one of the most popular items this generation has ever seen. Baxcalibur prior to its ban would run heavy duty boots because rocks and spikes would absolutely nuke it down to like almost like 75% HP. Even with Cinderace still has to run heavy duty boots. You got walls like Gloking even running heavy duty boots because the reliance on hazards, because the abundance of hazards that is in the tier per se, it's harder to run other items that Pokemon might be accustomed to. For instance, like maybe Black Sludge Gloking, or maybe you want to run Choice Band Cinderace or Choice Scarf Cinderace, more of an offensive set, etc. There's things you just cannot run because of how the advent of hazards has really taken place in the metagame. And this is something I made a video actually a while ago, probably like a month ago. I know I didn't do that well, but it actually goes into really in depth what I'm really talking about when it comes to the heavy duty boots item. In the end, hazards become even more powerful with the advent of new users that are able to hide behind good as gold as power keeps inching forward to keep pushing back Great Tusk from being the ultimate counter. Great Tusk is great, don't get me wrong, but with hazards becoming more centralizing with Hammer now, Gliscor, Ribombee, etc., it's becoming painfully clear how hard it is to keep relying on Tusk to keep relying on getting rid of hazards. It's not like Tinglu or someone of that stature where they're more passive, or Glimora where you can take advantage of its frailty. No, you got 3 reliable hazard stack users that can go offensively and also threaten Tusk while punishing Tusk for whatever decision it really wants to do. And while Cinderace is a viable option, it's not always great, especially since you will have to flip both hazards on the opposing side, and so if you have hazards on your side on the other side and you're trying to flip him, sometimes it might work against you, and overall it's why Cinderace isn't like the best echelon when it comes to countering hazards. And plus, teams are very able to work around Cinderace, get rid of it before they put their hazards, or either way they're still counterplay to both variations. Good as Gold is really defining the metagame as we speak. Gholdengo in itself is clearly not broken, but it seems as if every update, Good as Gold stands out as the premier ability in the tier. In terms of killing the tier, I personally believe it's the most centralizing thing in the tier right now, and is definitely killing how we team build in Scarlet and Violet singles. You have to carry Tusk in a lot of matches if you have hazards from your side, or core change if you are not a hazard setup team in order to avoid the painful hazard sack, and with it being very predictable in the prominent hazard removals, it's not that hard to team build. Heavy Duty Woods has definitely taken over in being, if not one of the premier items to use in this metagame because of how painful it is to work on hazards sometimes. You just really have to game plan and strategize in order to critically play around the hazards at the correct times if need be. I gave the example earlier, but that really is a good showcase of the BS happening in the tier currently. But anyways, that's my 2 cents of what's happening in the tier right now in terms of Gholdengo and Good as Gold, and in terms of hazards in general. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and thank you to my members over on Patreon and over here on YouTube for their continued support. If you wish to support me even further, the links are down below, and be sure to join the Chompy Discord. But with that though, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching as always.